The Awakening of the Chosen. Welcome, everyone, to the channel, The Awakening of the Chosen. I'm Gabriel, and today, I want to speak directly to you, chosen one, who feels a unique purpose unfolding in your life. In the next few minutes, we will uncover one of spirituality's deepest secrets: how rejection, often seen as failure, is actually a divine tool used to shape history's greatest leaders and changemakers. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or faced closed doors, know this: these moments are not the end. They are the beginning of an extraordinary journey. Stay with me until the end, as we reveal the power that transforms the rejected into the exalted, and how this transformation can begin in your life today. It becomes more important to consider the difference between human sight and divine vision in the modern situation, so defined by narrow views and quick decisions. Limited by its own paradigms, society often misses the hidden potential of people who are seen as ordinary or inconsequential. This collective blindness is reminiscent of the biblical story of Joseph, whose magnificence his own brothers first missed sight of. What fascinates us here is how restricted and defective human views may be, whereas heavenly perspective is always wide and whole. God never ceases seeing the possibilities of every creature. His unlimited vision drives him non-stop behind the scenes of existence. Every blow of rejection the planet delivers has a heavenly touch that shapes and readies the strong soul for its forthcoming ascension. This seeming paradox, where rejection turns into the instrument of perfection, is evidence of the great divine design. God transforms apparently negative events into chances for development and education. Unquestionably, the basis of a powerful testimony is those events that look to be utter loss and suffering. One of the most beautiful and enigmatic features of the divine is this transforming of sorrow into strength and greater knowledge. When God chooses to turn the situation around, the stage of rejection takes front stage and exaltation centers there. Using human scorn as a stage for his great intervention, Jesus ironically prepares the selected one for a fate beyond conventional knowledge. This reminds us that while at first look God's methods are not always clear, they are always full of love and purpose. Every selected individual goes through a procedure that is nothing less than an amazing and moving monument of change and conquering. The difficulties encountered are not just tests. They are also instruments to confirm faith and strengthen the divine message. Every personal tale therefore becomes a potent narrative of transformation, wherein the suffering experienced helps to raise the voice of the divine in the earth. It reminds us shockingly that a brilliant purpose is being created even in the shadow of devaluation and obscurity. The truth is that every one of us is somewhat influenced by the limiting expectations of the society. This allows us to grow in a more spiritual and less critical worldview that gives compassion and patience first priority. Understanding this divine process of metamorphosis helps us to see that rejection of the world is a prelude to God's perfect purpose rather than a verdict at last. Our job is to find peace amid uncertainty because we know that our labor always has a loving intent. All of this wakes in us the awareness of our ignorance of the actual contents each human being bears inside of herself. Stories of transformation, those enlightened by God, remind us that actual potential appears exactly when we least expect it, exposing the beauty buried under the cover of seeming insignificance. This rolling story of spiritual development not only nourishes our faith, but also inspires every one of us to ponder our own part in the immense fabric of the Creator's cosmos. This realization also challenges us to see the light that each person radiates, even if it is hidden by the shadows of others' judgment, therefore transcending appearances and initial impressions. Compassion and empathy become essential tools in this process, as they help us to clearly see where previously only myopia and errors existed. Remember that the Joseph narrative is a timeless lesson that speaks to our everyday life, not just a far-off tale from the Bible. Every one of us at some time feels rejection or is undervalued in some capacity. But if we believe that a higher force is guiding our paths, we start to realize that much more is going on than first seems. This knowledge motivates us to look for and appreciate the heavenly qualities that abound in every human contact. We know that sometimes the restrictions placed on us by others are more likely to reflect our own inner strength than their actual nature. Internalizing this instruction helps us to understand this as part of the complicated dance of life, where everyone has a certain function, and helps us to more readily forgive those who reject us. We develop in our spirituality, learning to travel with relentless confidence, even if the road ahead looks doubtful or difficult. This is a call to match our view with God's loving gaze, so that we may look beyond appearances and see great worth in others and ourselves. God always tests us to believe in the inherent goodness of His creation, to trust in the road, even if obstacles appear insurmountable, and to keep hope alive, because with God, exaltation always arrives at the ideal moment. This message reminds us of the transforming power of acceptance and thanks as much as of faith and tenacity. When we consider this, we are urged to welcome our own road, believing that every action we do will ultimately bring us to the fulfillment of the goals God has set for us. This path is divinely created. Accepting this fact releases us from the bonds of worldly expectations and lets us welcome the actual serenity and delight that results from living under God's loving, timeless direction. The beauty of it all is that our existence gains significance when we allow ourselves to be receptive to this greater knowledge. Our difficulties become wonderful chances for our spiritual development and the achievement of our divine potential, not as insurmountable roadblocks. Knowing that everything we go through advances something more, this transforming viewpoint helps us to welcome each encounter with bravery and curiosity. It is an invitation to develop peace within ourselves, knowing that every fall may be a step towards actual freedom derived from self-awareness and confidence in God. This confidence gives us the power we need to shine even more through challenges and help us to gracefully, with dignity, conquer hardship. This road of faith also helps us to become closer to others, as it helps us to be more sympathetic and caring for the difficulties of others by realizing our own ones. Starting to view people the way God sees us, with pure love and respect, we start to create bridges rather than barriers. We are here to be lighthouses of hope and inspiration for everyone around us to get strength in their own spiritual path. This kind of love and acceptance helps our societies to become actual havens of peace, where everyone is appreciated for who they really are, independent of outside conditions. This is the actual power of spirituality in action, in which divine harmony shows itself in every one of us and guides us to take part in the massive global healing process. The fact that this cycle of development and metamorphosis is ongoing is quite amazing. Life is a sequence of rebirths, a continuous flow in which God leads us from one stage to the next, always ready for our great future. Thus, when we believe in Him, we let our limitless potential to grow and shine to light, not only for our own benefit, but also for the path open for others. We are developing toward more understanding and deeper love continually. This allows us to not only survive, but also grow living models of God's love and wisdom within the complexity and beauty of human existence. Continually on this road of development and spirituality, we find that every obstacle overcome and every success honored helps us to evolve into better versions of ourselves. This process helps us to become vehicles of divine wisdom, learning to live with a grace that reflects the depth of our knowledge and the width of our faith. As we grow on this road, we begin to see that the talents we acquire are to be freely given rather than just for ourselves. This knowledge starts a chain reaction of change, wherein every act of compassion and empathy reverberate around the planet and motivates others to climb as well. The beauty of the divine design is found in its seeming simplicity in daily expression. Often the most clear and revealing are the smallest gestures and quietest times. We start to experience the great connectivity of everything when we learn to be present and seize every moment as a chance to observe and interact with the divine. This understanding wakes a feeling of thanks that penetrates our lives and helps us to live with an open heart and a peaceful mind, among the uncertainties of life. Deeply engaged in this ceaseless dance of gifts and difficulties, we come to see that actual spirituality is lived in the moment. This helps us to appreciate the highs and lows, as every one of them is necessary for our growth. Thus, spirituality turns into a road to satisfaction, where we learn to let go with unbroken confidence and accept the flow of life. By doing this, we not only discover our own road, but also become shining lights on the way of others, therefore lighting the flame of hope and will in every heart we come into touch with. Connecting us all in the magnificent fabric of creation, this cycle of love and rebirth reminds us that every one of us is inherent part of a truth larger and more beautiful than we could ever dream. At first look, rejection might appear like a terrible experience, a sudden ending of aspirations and hopes. But seen from the divine perspective, it becomes a quite effective tool for metamorphosis. Rejection offers us a special chance to uncover our own selves and rethink who we are. It does not define who we are. We are urged to develop from within, breaking through the surface constraints placed by outside forces, much like a seed hidden in the darkness of the ground. Given David's circumstances, it's fascinating how his destiny was unaffected by the voices of doubt and devaluation surrounding him. Your path shows that our worth derives from above, not from what others value. Often eclipsed by the cacophony of the world, the voice of God finds in rejection a holy place to show up. These quiet and alone times are exactly when we encounter until unheard of clarity, when our purpose and identity start to show fresh vitality. Rejection thereby serves as a required element of preparation. God works silently throughout these seeming negative moments to provide the charm and spiritual strength needed to meet what is ahead. Every challenge, every word of discouragement becomes a stepping stone that helps us to reach a better knowledge of our place in the vast, divine system. Perfect illustration of this is Joseph's path. From rock bottom to the heights of a throne, his path is a potent reminder of how circumstances of utmost difficulty could provide the foundation for unexpected ascension. Often buried in the shade of obscurity, the selected ones are nourished in a cocoon until they are ready to shine brilliantly in the world. They are then driven into a retreat that only sharpens their brightness of return. Knowing that God has been guiding and remembering us all along changes the sense of being lost by the world. This chapter encourages us not to minimize times of rejection and gloom. As it is in these environments, the deepest ties with our actual purpose are created. God shapes our resilience and spiritual clarity using the warmth of these events, much like a talented blacksmith would do, therefore preparing us for a vocation beyond our own view. The basis of a permanent witness is laid in this quiet metamorphosis deep inside us, which prepares us not to meet human expectations, but rather to completely live the mission meant for us. Understanding this helps us to welcome rejection, not as a burden, but rather as a gift in disguise. She exhorts us to listen to the inner voice guiding us toward the actual essence and to see beyond the constraints placed by other people's beliefs. On the coast of rejection, we discover the bravery to face the worst obstacles with unwavering trust that a loving and smart hand is guiding us. This approach helps us to utilize criticism and solitude as levers for self-discovery and the full expression of our spiritual potential rather than to become afraid of them. Therefore, we understand that every door closed opens a fresh avenue for development and many opportunities. From this point of view, we start to see that rejection is a call to explore uncharted areas of our being and go farther into our inner trip, just waiting to come clear. For every one of us who experience times of uncertainty and doubt, the David and Joseph parallel is a lighthouse. These ageless tales teach us that while strength and purpose are not always obvious on the surface, they are shown in the consistency and resiliency grown throughout difficult times. Rejecting helps us to clarify our goals and let go of the outside expectations that sometimes distort our view. This disconnection releases something. He releases us to pursue what is important, what is timeless and unchangeable. We move more in line with who we really believe we are supposed to be, instead of mired in cycles of outside validation. This flexibility lets us see rejection as a mild instructor, one that emphasizes the need of self-validation and confidence in our inner purpose. We start to hear the faint language of the heart amid this forced seclusion, guiding us toward our actual selves. Many of us find that rejection sets off a profound and required awakening. Rather than bemoaning the closed doors, we are urged to gaze at the windows that open and at the fresh paths we neglected before consideration. Rejection tells us that we have a limitless supply of bravery and inventiveness to conquer any challenge, and that our seeming constraints are sometimes a question of viewpoint. This transforming perspective lets us reframe what it means to fail, not as a result, but rather as a vital component of our development. Realizing that, even in our worst of times, we are being directed by a bigger power that works non-stop for our betterment makes one fundamentally beautiful. Accepting that we are not alone and that every difficulty has a greater goal helps one to develop deep spirituality. Every step in this ongoing dance of learning and development is guided by a tune only our soul can really grasp. Knowing this, rejection becomes from a hated enemy into a useful friend on the road to self-discovery. It motivates us to press on knowing that behind every rejection, a higher destiny is only waiting to be realized. We came to see as we gracefully and deliberately followed this road that rejection was really the voice of the divine guiding us to something much more than we could have ever dreamed on our own. And so we advance, reinforced and enlightened by the awareness that we are loved and supported every step of the way. Every moment appears to be entwined with a greater significance on this road of acceptance and rejection. When we let ourselves look beyond appearances and realize that every setback is really a deliberate preparation for what is to come, we enter a calm. Even those elements that we cannot first grasp, it is as if the cosmos, in its infinite wisdom, had already exactly scheduled every aspect of our path. When we pay attention to this viewpoint, we start to experience inner calm even in the middle of the storm, as we know we are being molded into something more than only our knowledge can grasp. The road of the great people who before us, such as David and Joseph, reveals to us that our fate is not set by the outer world's diversions. They advise us that the answers and strengths we are looking for are found in isolation and in great introspection. These historical leaders are live reminders of the human spirit's never-ending capacity to overcome obstacles and discover a road, no matter how difficult it might appear. Understanding the relationship between rejection and progress helps us to value the individuals in our vicinity even more. Every individual we encounter is on their own path, with their own difficulties and rejections we understand. It increases our awareness of the power of our words and deeds, as well as our sensitivity. We realize that the spark someone needs to rekindle their inner flame can be a word of encouragement or a little act of kindness. This knowledge pushes us to be more present and involved not just with our own challenges, but also with others we come across along the road. As we travel this road, we start to see periods of rejection in fresh perspective. They are linked components of a magnificent mosaic of life, each with a place and meaning, not separate episodes of suffering or inadequacy. In this sense, we welcome the road with all its bends, sure that, while unknown, it is one full of possibilities and promise. Knowing that divine love and wisdom are constantly with us, guiding each step of our road and turning obstacles into successes, we travel with fresh faith, ready to confront whatever comes. Deeply on this road, we discover a truth that changes our viewpoint of the surroundings and ourselves. We learn to see that rejection is a furnace, a place where our doubts and worries are turned into bravery and clarity. Although there is suffering involved in this spiritual alchemy, its benefits are incountable. Every rejection experience motivates us to release the bonds of limiting expectations and investigate much more broadly the frontiers of our potential. This process is beautiful in that it helps us to reawaken us to our fundamental core, that inner area where relentless power lives, driven by confidence in the path and the love that supports it. Our attitude to life changes as we integrate these teachings into our everyday activities. For people who see us, our capacity to meet obstacles with fortitude becomes a lighthouse. We start to live models of how rejection, instead of being avoided, can be accepted as necessary for spiritual development. Walking the route with this fresh viewpoint helps us to recognize the links between our individual tales and the larger fabric of mankind. Every one of us, in our journey of change, helps to create a collective awakening and motivates one another to search for authenticity and significance among the complexities of modern life. This awareness of connectivity helps us to see that we are not alone. Millions of people are starting their own paths of self-awareness and development anywhere, finding new sides of themselves as they negotiate obstacles and rejections. Knowing that even if we feel alone or misunderstood, there is an unseen network of individuals that share the same desire for purpose and satisfaction motivates us to stay forward in this global society. This awareness helps us to become stronger and to see every difficulty as a chance to develop curiosity, compassion, and patience. Looking forward, we are meant to carry this viewpoint alive in our hearts. Every day presents opportunities for us to use our knowledge in daily situations, therefore developing our link with what really counts by means of practice. We provide our best even when it is not instantly appreciated or acknowledged. Every act of kindness and every decision of love over fear help us to create fresh layers on the basis of our spiritual development. Knowing that every step is a preparation for something wonderful, something that beyond our knowledge and that, in due time, will show its full splendor, we so stroll towards the future. The spiritual richness found in the dynamics of divine justice shows itself in somewhat unexpected ways, logically proving how better designs benefit those who are usually seen by society as the most modest and rejected. It is amazing to think about how, in the big picture of life, there is a deliberate design wherein seeming early rejection becomes heavenly preparation. Often difficult and full of questions, this condition of stop truly shows itself as a period of incubation, in which every element of the personality and faith of the selected ones is sculpted and perfected always under the careful eye of a loving and intelligent creator. When we look at inspirational tales like those of Joseph and David, we see that their ascent to prominence or acceptance is not random or just the result of circumstance. Rather, these spiritual and historical stories show us that the moment of rejection and the period of exaltation exactly line up. Joseph, for instance, endured many hardships, sold, imprisoned, and forgotten, until at the appropriate moment his knowledge and understanding of dreams landed him second in command in Egypt. This road of subversion and conquering not only improves their traits, but also represents the divine constant that every occurrence in our life has a proper moment. When we are challenged and denied, when we usually only perceive the restrictions of our condition, there is more power visible beyond. God sees the opportunities buried from human view in His great knowledge. He notes our potential rather than just our current reality. This point of view provides solace and hope that the obstacles we now encounter might be the foundation for a great victory tomorrow. Many times, divine justice shows out in public exaltations that educate us about actual power and compassion. When God steps in, your choices transcend beyond mere personal gratification. They are great teachings for everyone who observes these events. Seeing someone overcome all the challenges motivates and teaches. It underlines that real power comes from the capacity to match divine purposes and practice compassion, even in trying circumstances, not from force or dominance. What is really amazing is how non-transitory this change from rejection to exaltation is. Instead, these ageless tales highlight the enduring character of heavenly benefits given. The exaltations that start in God's justice emphasize the power and inherent goodness that show up through human imperfections, rather than help to denigrate or minimize those who stay in the darkness of doubt or dishonesty. From hardship to exaltation, the path the selected ones travel becomes a living monument. Even if we cannot see beyond the present challenges, every achievement and every acknowledgement seems as unquestionable evidence of the need of depending on the larger goal. Therefore, when one is raised from humility to prominence, that success is shared with the world, and acts as a potent reminder that reliance in the divine is never useless. Especially in a time where immediacy seeks to deflect our focus from what really matters, fully believing in a larger plan is a bravery and hope act. We must so make time to consider how divine justice could fit our life. Thinking on divine justice helps us to examine the events of our life that have molded us into the people we are now. Every challenging experience, every rejection, every step back might contain the seeds of major progress. Time of waiting is not time of waste. Rather, it is a dance between the temporal and the eternal, moments of waiting preparing for a future we cannot fathom. Examining the accounts of people like Joseph and David reveals that their journeys were not straight or free from sorrow. Rather, they were distinguished by patient waiting and an extraordinary resiliency driven solely by a relentless confidence in something better than the difficulties themselves. This knowledge ties us to everyone who has at some time felt on the sidelines, wondering their position in the world or doubting the worth of their efforts. The capacity of divine justice to recast the personal story of every one of us defines its power in major part. It reminds us that we are precisely where we need to be, even when everything appears lost, when we feel forgotten in obscurity or caught in apparently unworkable conditions. Though sometimes taught through tears and pleas, this is a challenging lesson that shows us ultimately that no effort or suffering is lost in the delicate balance of the cosmos. Rather, we are asked to consider our own path as a part of an immeasurably bigger and more beautiful picture in which every piece of the jigsaw, however little it may appear, has a priceless function. Observing divine justice in action invites also humility. We are aware that our viewpoint is constrained, and that this myopia inherent in the human condition could affect our evaluations of success and failure. Conversely, we are surrounded by signals that divine providence is operating, changing reality, and unexpectedly influencing our life. Therefore, humility is not just a virtue, but also a required openness for divine grace to completely show itself in our life. This awareness helps us as it releases us from the weight of attempting to manage the unachievable and sets us to get something even better than our vision could foresee. We are invited to be active participants in disseminating and experiencing divine justice as we share these concepts and experiences, not merely viewers. Every narrative of fall from humility is like a lighthouse, directing us to live with greater hope and courage, knowing that in all things there is a divine purpose that will most definitely be shown in time. We realize that our choices, ideas, and attitudes affect others in ways we may not even consider and go beyond our own awareness. Internalizing this reality helps us to become ambassadors of justice and exaltation from an immeasurably wise and loving source in our own way. This path of spiritual inquiry and personal satisfaction is therefore a dance with the divine, in which every step is directed by a power seen beyond our sight. To diligently walk this road is finally to enable every one of us to become not merely a receiver, but also a conduit via which divine kindness, justice, and compassion could abound into the world. This mission reminds us that we are finally not alone, and that we were never meant to walk alone in this great and magnificent planet we call home. Hence, it is both demanding and fulfilling. This very spiritual and personal awareness of divine justice helps us to become active agents of love and pity that go beyond our human constraints. When we understand that we are part of a divine tapestry, where every thread, every life, adds to the whole beauty of the pattern that is still to be revealed by us, the sense of alone and insignificance that so frequently invades us in times of difficulty disappears. When we start to perceive this role, the rejection we come across along the road is no longer regarded as a roadblock, but rather as a chance for us to develop, learn, and advance in faith. This is a profound change of viewpoint that lets us reach better degrees of knowledge and empathy. We are called to analyze and reassess what we see to be genuine justice and power at every turn along this spiritual road. Divine vision enables us to search for that which is permanent and eternal in a society too often based on transitory and surface criteria. True strength, it reminds us constantly, is in the capacity to love without conditions, to demonstrate compassion even in the face of rejection, and to rise stronger and wiser after every fall. Reflecting the divine in our everyday life, these attributes are not just aspirational, but also the fundamental core of what human being entails in their ultimate form. Stories of resiliency and conquering, like Joseph and David, are lighthouse guides for us when darkness of uncertainty and hopelessness seems ready to consume us. They support the conviction that, independent of the outside conditions they may attempt to persuade us differently, our life has meaning and purpose. Their exaltations were not just for their personal benefit, but also for the larger good, reminding us that we are often required to rise to be able to raise others in our waking. When we let these stories shape our own life, we transcend our own hardships and realizes we are a part of something much bigger. In this capacity, we actively create a world fit for divine justice, as well as in a passive receiving route. This is a path of co-creation, wherein our everyday decisions, motivated by pure intentions and in line with the best good, assist us to create the kingdom of love and compassion we want to see in the world. Every deed, every word, every idea becomes chances to plant the seeds of change and truth, thereby contributing to mold a future wherein the modest exaltation is not just a promise, but a live reality we may all experience. Not only do we change our life when we commit to this road of divine justice, but we also help the society in our vicinity. We are more suited to appreciate the inherent worth of every person and embrace the variety of experiences and narratives as fundamental elements of the vast divine design. This acceptance provides an atmosphere in which everyone has the chance to grow independent of their starting point or the difficulties encountered along the road. Therefore, divine justice not only elevates the modest, but also urges everyone to help to create a more fair and compassionate society in which actual excellence is judged by the capacity to love and serve.